Hey everybody, it's Daniel, and welcome to another episode of There Is No God, and we're all gonna die. Let's start the show. There is no God, and we're all gonna die. There is no God, and we're all gonna die. There is no God, and we're all gonna die. There is no God, there's just you and I. Okay, so welcome to There Is No God and We're All Gonna Die. I am your host, Daniel Cartier. I am a gay, liberal atheist living in the Bible Belt. And I'm glad you're here. You don't have to be gay. You don't have to be liberal. You don't have to be an atheist. You don't have to be anything to be here. Like, no matter what you are, even if you are totally conservative, totally straight, and totally hate everything I'm saying, I'm still glad you're here because you're a fellow human being and it's my job to be the love I want to see in the world, and so I'm glad you're here. This is not the I Hate Religious People podcast. My best friend is a Christian. I love that people have their faith. I just don't happen to have that type of faith myself. I have a lot of faith in things, but not in the way religious people do, and that's fine. So there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about today. Firstly, I want to hear from you guys. I am going to be talking about this all through the podcast. I love getting voicemails. As many of you know, my favorite part of these podcasts is to hear from listeners. Listeners call in and they leave me voicemails. And then I answer the voicemails. I just give people my thoughts on what they think. And I've had people call in saying that they don't like me. I've had people call in and talk about all sorts of stuff, random things. Firstly, this is how you call me. It's very easy. It's not complicated. Go to Daniel, that's my name, Daniel Cartier, like the jewelers, CARTIER.com, DanielCartier.com. And click on podcast. It's right there in the menu. And then there's a little button. And you press that little button. And it says, leave a voicemail. You can get to it just by going to my website. It's so easy, and you can pretty much talk about whatever you want as long as it fits into 90 seconds. Yeah, just let me know what's on your mind, and you will probably hear yourself on a future podcast, because let me tell you, this is a little fledgling podcast. This is not Joe Rogan or anything like that. This is a very small podcast that only a handful of people listen to at the moment. And maybe that's all it'll ever be. That's fine. I'm not trying to be the most famous podcast host in the world. I may just be some guy who's talking to a handful of people, and that is okay too. I'm not doing this for any other reason than I'm a guy who has a lot of thoughts. And so doing this podcast is a way for me to get some of those thoughts out of my head. But in doing so, I also want to hear what's on your mind, and I want to hear your thoughts. And so then I get to answer questions. Maybe you want to call in and tell me what you think of something that's happening in politics right now, or something that you're grappling with, or maybe you just want to call up and like blab about whatever. I'm fascinated by all of it, so I invite you to call up. Anyways, so again, DanielCartier.com, then go to podcast. It's just a page on my website, and hit the button that says leave a voicemail. Anyways, so I'm very happy to be here. This is what I want to talk about first. I just went to this amazing convention last weekend, and I shared about it in my last episode. I went to NanaCon. So basically, NanaCon is this big convention of, I don't want to call it an atheist convention, although there certainly are a lot of atheists there. There's atheists, agnostics, humanists, free thinkers, and even a lot of people who happen to be of quote unquote faith. There's Christians that went there, but they happen to be very progressive Christians. And so what it really was kind of just a big meeting of hundreds of like-minded people happening here in Tennessee. It happened just about a half an hour down the road from my house. And yeah, it was a really beautiful weekend. I got to see a bunch of people that I saw last year. And I don't know, it was really nice to know that there's a lot of other people out there in the world that share the same views that I have. And I think my one takeaway from it is I understand why religious people like going to church because, I think one of the things it does give them is a sense of community. And as an atheist, it's not like we have these big churches we go to every week or, these huge mega churches or anything like that. A lot of times these type of conventions are the only times that we get to see a bunch of different people who share our values, unless we go out and try to make community either by hosting game nights or meetups or anything like that. And so this podcast is also another way for me to stay in contact with people who share my views, because I will say there's something really nice about being around a bunch of like-minded people. And I understand that. There's a good side to it and a bad side to it. The good side to it is that you get that sense of community. You feel like you don't have to explain yourself every 5 seconds. Like, I didn't have to explain the fact that I was an atheist and apologize for it every 5 seconds. I was around a bunch of other people who shared my views. And I imagine that when you're going to church, that's also a feeling that people in church get, that they're around people who share their same views about the universe and all that stuff. On the negative side, I think that's why some guys who, if they feel like isolated and maybe they were raised a certain way and they don't have a lot of friends or something, and so then they find a community in something like the Proud Boys or like the far right neo-Nazi extremists. I think a lot of times what happens is really young kids who they find a sense of community in that, and that's the thing that gets them attracted to it. And, so then all the ideology is what they adopt in order to be part of that. And and then some of them probably are just flat out racists. So I think that sense of community can work both ways. It can be a really beautiful thing, but then it also can bring people together for the wrong reasons as well. But anyways, that's another topic for another day. That's me getting way off topic right now. So before we go any further, I think what I want to do right now, because this is such a beautiful thing to be able to be communicating with you guys again, I wanted to talk about 10 things that I just find kind of amazing right now. And that I think anybody could find amazing, even if they weren't an atheist or gay or liberal. This is just because, honestly, can we just say those are just 3 labels? Yeah, I'm also a dog dad. I'm a partner. I help guys in recovery. I am a neighbor. I'm a brother, I'm an uncle, so the gay liberal atheist, I just say that so that people know that I'm coming to this conversation from a very specific point of view. But anyways, man, I am really getting off topic right now. Let's get back to this list. Who gives a flying fuck what I am? Here's 10 things that I think are amazing right now. Here's 10 things that I think are amazing. Yeah. Okay, so here we go. I just think it's really amazing how huge the universe is. Somebody told me recently that there are more stars in the observable universe than grains of sand on the earth. Now, think about that. Think about how many grains of sand are on the earth. And there are more stars, apparently. It doesn't even seem like that's right. I could understand like if there was more stars in the universe, but in the observable universe. But this is what somebody told me. If somebody could maybe Google that. I can't Google it right now because I'm talking to you guys. But if somebody wants to Google that, and maybe next week, if I have to correct myself, I'm happy to do that. This is not the Daniel is always right about everything. I know that there's a lot of stars in the observable universe. And apparently there are, according to a couple things that I read, there's more stars in the observable universe than there are grains of sand on the earth. And so then the funny thing about that is that, meanwhile, I'm sitting here in Tennessee sometimes wondering why somebody on Facebook was being a douchebag to me. Like, that's the thing I'm focused on, not the fact that I'm living in this, universe that is so huge, my brain can't even comprehend it. I'm focused on, oh, somebody said a bitchy thing about my podcast, or, somebody, called me a libtard or whatever, or they called me a faggot or whatever. And I will just focus on that. And I won't focus on the fact that that person's opinion of me is, if I'm this small in comparison to how huge and beautiful the universe is, then people's opinion of me is even smaller. It's like almost, it might as well be non-existent. And yet we spend so much of our time chasing after acceptance from other people and trying to, I don't know, get other people to change the way they think or change who they are or whatever. And it's really, it's a losing proposition. The best we can do, I think, is show up and just be the best versions of ourselves that we can possibly be. And people may like it and they may not. I know for me, I have to just let it go. I've made it a practice of letting it go. Like, just let go of what people think of us. Who cares? Like, seriously, who cares? Just focus on the love. Focus on the love. Am I being loving? That's the big question. Am I being loving? Thing number 2, we are made up of dead stars. That is crazy right there. There's that song, "We are stardust," but we are all just basically made up of stardust. Like, the universe that we know of has been around for, they say, like 14 billion years, give or take. And stars have been formed and they've exploded and they've died and they've shot particles out into space. And about 4.6 billion years ago, a bunch of that stardust started circling around this star that was forming here, the sun that grows all our food now and everything. Over time, that formed into this blob of, this chunk of rock, and it became Earth. And over time, like, meteors crashed into it and, filled with ice. But the matter that makes us up, it all came from other stars. So you literally are the remnants of stars. I mean, that's not, any scientist will tell you that. And yet, again, I'll be walking around focused on the fact that, I don't know, like I'll just be walking around sometimes just taking everything for granted and feeling like, like bored or restless or, I don't know, like pissed off about some really stupid thing, like that somebody cut me off in traffic, and I'll let it ruin my day. And meanwhile, I'm friggin' stardust in my car, and the person who cut me off is stardust. My partner, Corey, he has a book called The Pamela Diaries, and he has a short story in it. First of all, you should read The Pamela Diaries. It's amazing. It's by Corey Michael Smithson. That's my beautiful, hunky partner. Check it out. It's on Amazon. It's an amazing book. It's a collection of essays that he wrote. But he has this story about being pissed off at people in traffic and then realizing that everybody he's pissed off at is actually stardust. And it's a beautiful story. Anyways, I'm not doing it justice. Check out his book. Again, it's called The Pamela Diaries, and it's by Corey Michael Smithson. On to the next thing. Number 3. It's kind of amazing to me also how short human life is. And okay, so like I said, the Earth was formed about 4.6 billion years ago, and then it took about 3 billion of those years, actually longer than that, for life, microscopic life, to start showing up. That the Earth had to cool down first, and I think it was maybe about 1 billion years ago. It might even be less time than that. Like, single cell organisms, started forming, and over time, over millions and millions of years, simple life forms developed into more complex life forms, and then, started crawling around on the land, and amphibians, and then the dinosaurs. The dinosaurs lasted for 167 million years. And, mankind's been around. I think Homo sapiens, Homo erectus has been around for about 2 million years, give or take, which is nothing compared to the dinosaurs' 167 million years. And, the 4.6 billion years that the Earth has been here. I know I've said this before, if you condensed the Earth, our timeline into 24 hours, that mankind would show up in the last couple seconds or in the last second. And so our lives, my life, my 57 years, it's nothing. It's nothing. And again, look at all the amazing things that happen even in this short blip that we get to experience. I've gotten to experience art and, music and friggin' Billie Holiday and Star Wars and disco music and punk rock and sex and food and dogs, and petting dogs and friends and love and I don't know, like piñatas, like whatever the fuck. We get to experience all this stuff, and yet it's just a blip. It's just a blip. And we fucking take it all for granted. Because it's more important that this douchebag from, I don't know, like Santa Fe or Los Angeles or whatever wants to argue politics with us and tell us that we're idiots, and then we have to tell them that they're idiots. And you guys, I'm guilty of this. I know I'm talking a good talk right now, but I still fall into it all the time. I can't, I always say I'm not going to. It's just kind of like when I go on these diets and I say I'm not going to eat tortilla chips and then start fucking eating tortilla chips. Yeah, I will have, I guess you could call them, civility relapses where I suddenly am not being civil to people anymore. And I'm telling them, you can take that fucking opinion of yours and you can lube it up and you can shove it up your ass. Like I've literally said that to people before and I'm not proud of that. That is me not on my best behavior. That is not my best self. And it's something I'm trying not to do now. But I get a little mad sometimes when somebody's being homophobic or racist or sexist or transphobic. And then, I don't know, the fighting words come out in me and I start saying really mean things to them. And I don't know what I expect to accomplish by doing that because it's not going to change their opinion. That's me being a control freak in a world I have no control over. That's what that is. So anyways, Number 4, the mystery of consciousness. Why does any of this feel like anything? Like, why am I mad when I see people being douchebags? Or why am I happy when I see my dogs? Or why am I even thinking at all? Now, some people could say, well, because God gave you your thoughts. I actually just think it's, our bodies are formed and we were formed with a brain and our brain is just doing what a brain does. It creates thoughts and if it didn't create thoughts, we wouldn't be able to survive. So I actually think it's just a survival thing. But for all the people who do believe that there's something more out there, I just want you to know, I think that's really beautiful. Like I'm never going to make fun of it. In a weird way, I'm kind of jealous because it would be nice to think that there was some divine energy that was, I don't know, giving me my thoughts. But I mean, I don't think that. So I'm not going to pretend that I do. But I love that other people do think that there's some otherworldly thing making their thoughts happen. And, isn't it cool that we can coexist on the same planet and have such different views about what gives us our thoughts? I think that's pretty amazing as well. And we can be friends with people who have very different views about it. Like, we don't have to be compartmentalized. Like, I'm only going to hang out with people who think exactly the way I do. Like, that's just fucking crazy. And life's too short. And then we're probably missing out on a lot of wonderful relationships if we do that. Look at me with my little list. I actually have a list. Number 5, how lucky. Oh my God, you guys, I cannot read I just bragged about my list and now I can't even fucking read what I wrote. How lucky to, what? How lucky to east? You can't see this. Like, maybe some of you can see this. I can't read what I wrote. I don't know what number 5 said. I'm going to go open up a little text document on my computer to see what I wrote because honestly, you guys, I don't know what the fuck I just wrote. That is me. How lucky. Oh, okay. How lucky we are to exist. Sorry, I couldn't read my writing, you guys, and you're going to get that from me sometimes. Sometimes I'm not going to be able to read my writing, and that's okay. Yeah, it is pretty amazing that we exist, isn't it? Um, think of like everything I just said, the 4.6 billion years that it took to create this moment right now, and we get to be here in it. And this moment will never be replicated again. This is it. Like this moment is happening right now, and then it's gone. And every second that we're here is a irreplaceable second that is never going to look exactly like that. In the history of the world, there's never been a second just like this one. And yet, man, it's like, what are we doing with these moments? And number 6, I like to think that maybe somewhere out there, there's somebody else hosting a podcast, maybe their version of a podcast, or making music, their version of music or art. I don't know what life is like on other planets, but I guarantee you there is life on other planets. It would be stupid if this infinite universe, and then there's just this little tiny blue dot that just has us, and then there's all the rest of it is just like this dead space with no life in it. Like that wouldn't make any sense. So I honestly think, I think there's probably billions of planets out there, billions that have life on them. And so do any of them have something like music, or do they have like art, or do they have I don't know, politics or religion? Like what is it like there? You know, is there any civilization that kind of resembles what humanity is here? And what would that look like? And how would it be different? I mean, they clearly would be speaking a completely different language, but I don't know. I like thinking about stuff like this puts things in perspective for me. And that's why I'm doing this today, because I was really stressed out about posting this podcast. And so I need to remind myself that this podcast doesn't even matter. It's just a fucking podcast. I mean, I'm glad people are listening, but at the end of the day, you know, it's just one more podcast out of millions that are being posted. And, you know, if it's good or bad, it's going to just be something that exists right now. 100 years from now, it's not going to matter. 1,000 years from now, it's really not going to matter. A million years from now, like I guarantee you, nobody will even remember that I posted this podcast. So I hope they don't. They should be worried about their life then. I mean, if humans are still even around. Number 7, why humans are so obsessed with certainty. Like, yeah, that I was thinking about that too. Like, why do we need to have everything be certain? Like, I mean, I get it. I think that's also a survival thing, but at the same time, there's something really nice about just kind of letting go of certainty and letting a life just kind of happen. You know, of course, that doesn't mean we don't work towards things, or, you know, we need to make sure that we're safe and that we're taken care of and that we are paying our bills and showing up for ourselves and showing up for our health and for our loved ones. Like, I get all that, but so little of it is out of our control. I mean, control is really an illusion. I like to say that I'm a control freak, living in a world that I really don't have much control over. I can try and try and try to make things happen. I can try to even make people like me or agree with me. And, you know, they may never like me. They may never agree with me. And the things that I work really hard towards may never come to fruition. But at the end of the day, am I still doing my best? And am I still enjoying the process? I think that's really important. And am I hurting anybody along the way in my quest to get this, that, or the other thing? Earlier in life, I can honestly say I probably did hurt a lot of people. And, you know, when I got sober, I had to, you know, look at that and make a lot of amends. You know, like I had to mend a lot of bridges. But today, the goal is to, you know, wake up in the morning, do the best I can, and then when I go to bed, when I look back over the day, think, have I hurt anybody? And, you know, sometimes the answer is yes. Like I mentioned being an asshole to people on Facebook. Yeah, that's being hurtful. It's almost like we live in a society now that tells us that divisiveness is a requirement for existence. And it's not. It's not. It doesn't mean that I need to co-sign bigotry or hatred or intolerance. I certainly don't. But my job is to still be the love I want to see in the world, even with people that I vehemently disagree with, because I may be the one liberal voice in their life or the one voice of compassion towards marginalized groups in their life. And maybe they'll, I don't know, some of it will rub off on them. I don't know. Anyways, that's not for me to say. That's really out of my control. Again, I don't have any control over any of this, really. Number 8, I just want to talk about the fact that I love the birds in my yard. Since I last posted episodes last year, one of the things I did in the break, the long 7-month break, is I became a very avid bird feeder. And it all happened because we had this huge ice storm, and there was like 4 inches of ice all over Tennessee. Like literally, it was just ice for a couple weeks. And the poor birds couldn't get to any food. And so I saw a bunch of birds. There was like a little scrap of food, and this bird had it. And I don't know, it was probably a crust of bread or something. And like 20 birds were fighting over it. And it broke my heart because I was like, these poor birds, like they have nothing to eat right now. Like they can't get to anything. It's like the ground is completely frozen. There's like a sheet of ice all over everything. And so I went out and I got like a little bird feeder. And I've never really been somebody who fed birds. So anyways, that was back in January. And now I've got like 4 bird feeders in my yard. I've got like a bunch of bird baths. I've like made my own suet treats for them. Like I really kind of went haywire with it. And so, yeah, now birds have become kind of like my new social media every morning. Instead of scrolling Facebook in the morning when I get up, what I do is I have a cup of coffee and I sit in my rocking chair and I look at the birds outside. And let me tell you, you guys, it really puts a lot of stuff in perspective because they have their own community. Like there's the mourning doves that come, there's the blue jays, there's the European starlings, there's the finches, there's the cardinals. I've identified 25 or 26 different species of birds just in my own little dorky backyard. And so I'm not saying everybody can go and feed birds. And then also the squirrels come, and they try to get into the bird feeders, and it's really fun to watch because, I know some people wouldn't like that, but I love watching them because I'm rooting for the squirrels to get some bird seed. They'll do these backflips off of trees trying to get it, and sometimes they actually get some of the bird seed, and I don't know, they're just fun to watch. And number nine, everybody's the result of, this is a really short one. Everybody is the result of 2 people doing it. So I think we can be, I don't know. I guess I brought this up because I feel like humans just have this really weird obsession with sex. And it's like this taboo thing. We're all the result of it, and yet we love to focus on other people's sex lives and, demonize people and then demonize sex as an act. And like, it's this thing that we all need to be ashamed of, even though we're all basically sexual creatures. I don't know where I was going with that, but I wrote it down as number 9. I don't really have much more to say about it. Just, don't be a prude. Like, get over yourself. And number 10, we're all stuck with each other. You guys, this is it. Nobody's going to another planet. Nobody's moving off planet Earth. If you don't like a group of people, sorry, they're not going anywhere. If you're a racist and you don't like black people, well, there's billions of black people on the planet and there's no other planet they can move to. If you're a homophobe and you don't like gay people, well, guess what? There are millions and millions of gay people on the planet, and we're not going anywhere. If you don't like this person or that person or, people from different countries, dude, nobody's going anywhere. We are all here. And so we're all kind of stuck with each other. And I think that humanity is still we're a very young species, as I said before. And I think we're acting like a young species. We're a very immature species. For all of the technological breakthroughs we have and the intelligence we have, we are still really stupid about a lot of things. And, the fact that we think that we can survive as a species by being so mean to each other. That's not sustainable. Eventually, we're going to have to come to terms with one another and accept the fact that we are all here. And aside from a bunch of people killing a bunch of other people or some disease coming and wiping a bunch of people out, your neighbor that you disagree with, or your aunt or your uncle, or, your child that you disowned because he happened to be gay or transgender, like all these reasons we find to not approve of other people or not like other people. At the end of the day, they're still here on this planet, and you're still here on this planet, and we're all still here on this planet. And I don't know where we think the other person, the quote unquote other person, is going to go. Newsflash, they're not going to go anywhere. They're going to still be here on planet Earth. So, wouldn't it make more sense for us to figure out ways to all get along? I will say one thing. The lecture that I gave at NanaCon this year, it was all about that. It was all about getting along with people in our lives who did not share our views. Like, how can we still be loving to people who, I'm very liberal. How can I still be loving to somebody who thinks Donald Trump is great? Like, they love everything MAGA. Can I still be loving to those people? I mean, I do struggle with it, and I'll be the first to admit it. But I do have people in my life who I love, who I know voted for him, and yet I know that they have beautiful things about them too. I'll get into that maybe next week. But I can understand why some people need to just build a wall, and not the Mexican wall. I don't mean it that way. An emotional wall where they need to just block out everybody who's conservative or whatever. And I understand that there are some people who are truly just toxic and we can't have them in our lives for our own sanity. But, like I said earlier, sometimes I kind of feel like, am I still willing to be an example of what it means to be a loving person who happens to not share your views? Am I still willing to be that in somebody's life? And, if it's not killing me, I might as well still be cordial and gracious to them because, again, they may be questioning some of their own beliefs, and then here's their gay, liberal, atheist friend Daniel who's like being a nice guy to them, and, that's certainly better than me being a flaming asshole to them. I don't know. So some of you may disagree with me on that, and that's fine. I'm not here to be universally agreed with. This is just something that I've had to navigate, being who I am, living where I do in the Bible Belt, surrounded by so many people who do not share my views. So anyways, you guys, I was going to go on and talk about assholes of the week, but I've been talking for so long and I really do want to get to the voicemail. So I'm going to bypass. I was going to do assholes of the week, but I'm going to bypass that and I'm going to get straight into the voicemails. Again, if you want to call and leave a voicemail, just go to danielcartier.com. and then click on podcast, and then click on leave a voicemail. I would love to hear from you. So please give me a call and leave me a message. Okay, let's see who called.
Hi, Daniel. This is Greg Zukowski calling from Youngstown, Ohio. And I wanted to call because I actually have had something on my mind for the past few months, and that's near-death experiences, NDEs. And I've been, I still question my own beliefs and what I do believe in, what I don't believe in. And I'd like to think I do have a spiritual life of some kind. And but what always makes me curious about the afterworld, or whatever happens after we die, is when I hear stories about people that have had these near-death experiences. And we all know the stories of people who have been on an operation table, and they they technically die, and then they see a light, and they see people they loved, and they have these incredible experiences, and then they come back to life and they can talk about it. So I'm just wondering, if you've heard about these, and these types of people, and what you think about near-death experiences. Is it just, what's your thoughts about that? So that's all I have. So thanks.
Well, Greg, it's really nice to hear from you, and I love you to death. No pun intended. Yeah. Listen, I'll be the first to say that one of the wonderful things about my belief system, as an atheist who doesn't believe in an afterlife, it's just not how my brain works. I'm very literal. So when I hear about near-death experiences, I'm always skeptical. I'm always looking at the scientific thing like, well, that might just be their brain losing oxygen or something like that. But here's the beautiful thing about my personal beliefs. And I love this about my beliefs. Actually, it makes me so happy to say this. I hope I'm wrong. Like, it's one of the few times where it's like, man, if I'm wrong and there is life after death and I get to go somewhere else and fly around in the sky and there's people I've missed who I haven't seen in decades, or, pets that I, miss, like my dog Banjo and Phantom that just passed away in June, or I get to see my parents again, and maybe Jesus or some dude in a robe is there flying around. I don't know. It sounds like it would be amazing. So honestly, when I think about near-death experiences, that's about as far as my thinking goes. I love that other people contemplate this. I know for me, if I'm spending time thinking about that too much, I think it's going to be like thinking about a Rubik's Cube or something. I've never been able to solve a Rubik's Cube. My brain just can't solve those type of things. And so I think I'd be kind of making near-death experiences into a Rubik's Cube problem where I'm trying to solve it. And then meanwhile, I could be playing guitar, or I could be snuggling with my dogs, or going outside and filling my bird feeders, or making art out of junk, or even filming this podcast. Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time thinking about that, only because I think it's time better suited doing other things. And that's just for me. Other people thinking about it, I think it's great. So long as when they think about it, they're not being like, oh, and because I believe in near-death experiences, it means I also believe in this dogma, and this dogma states that you shouldn't be gay, or you shouldn't be this, or you shouldn't be that. That's the only time I ever take offense with any of it. But otherwise, yeah, question all of it. I mean, I think it's beautiful that people question stuff like that. And I just really liked hearing your voice. You have a very soothing voice to listen to. So that was my very talented friend, Greg. He's a brilliant artist. Let's see what else. Michelle.
Hey, I was just wondering if you ever have feelings of nihilism and what you do to keep it from becoming like a downward spiral. Like, are there rituals you keep, or meditations, or what? Have a great day. Bye.
Nihilism. Well, sweetie, you are talking to a lifelong punk rocker who grew up listening to hardcore music and goth and everything else. So nihilism has always been, I wouldn't say nihilism, but definitely, like, I've gone through periods in my life where I definitely was very destructive. So when you say nihilism, that could mean a lot of things, really. I wish I had an assistant now, because I would have them look up the definition for nihilism. I'm going to look it up here just so I can be sure. I'm going to spell it wrong. I don't even know how to spell it. Nihilism. Nihilism meaning. Okay, so this is the definition of nihilism. Nihilism is a philosophical view that rejects the existence of any inherent or objective meaning, purpose, moral value, or truth in life, derived from the Latin word nihil, meaning nothing. It states that the universe is empty of higher rules and that traditional values are groundless. In a weird way, I guess maybe I am a nihilist, although not like a nihilist in a sense. Like, whenever I think of nihilism, I think of like people just like total anarchy, and, people just taking what they want, and I don't know, like killing people just to get what they want, and that there's no repercussions. So I guess, no, I don't believe in nihilism in that sense of the word, because that would be unsustainable. I like living in a culture where people are civil to each other. I know I said in my very first episode that, because I would have religious people say, well, if you don't believe in God, how do you know right from wrong? And I was said, well, because of evolution. We evolved into the concept of right and wrong. When human beings first started out, there was no right or wrong. When human beings first started out, we were like any other animal on the planet. Basically, I hate to say it, but it was kill or be killed. So if you were like a prehistoric human and you had like a deer carcass and you were going to feed your family with this carcass of this animal, and I saw you and I needed food for me and all the people living in my cave, I might smash a rock over your head and take the carcass and bring it there. And I probably wouldn't have any, I'm assuming they didn't have really much feeling about it, like that. This is what we do to survive. And, as humans learned the power of banding together and farming and having community, and that, wow, this actually makes us into this super species because we're banding together and we have the ability to create these cultures. Well, if in these cultures we're still hitting each other over the head and taking whatever we wanted, none of those cultures would have lasted. Like if my neighbor came back from Walmart and I killed her and took all her groceries, that wouldn't be sustainable. That would be like Lord of the Flies. And so in that respect, no, I'm not a nihilist. But on a more existential, like kind of what I was asking before, like, what does anything mean? Like, it might not mean anything. Like, this might just be, existence might just be shit happening. This is what's happening right now because this is how all the molecules are interacting with each other, and we happen to be here right now. But, the dinosaurs were going about their merry way, and an asteroid came and wiped them all out. And then that was that. I will say this. This is kind of a nihilistic thought. We always say that we're destroying the earth, and we are. We're destroying it for ourselves. Like, if we keep going the way we're going, I believe that the earth will not be inhabitable for humans. But, if we went out of our way to destroy all life, like if we set off all of our nuclear bombs and took all of the chemicals we have and we threw them into the ocean and we crashed all our satellites and we literally killed everything. You know what the earth would do? Nothing. The earth would keep rotating around the sun, blowing up all our bombs. We're not even powerful enough to stop the earth from rotating around the sun. It would just keep going. And I don't think it would have any opinion that we did this. I think it would just be like, okay, well, that happened. I'm just going to keep revolving around the sun. And billions of years would go by. And, at some point, there might be some other life forms that would find that habitat very hospitable to their life, like radioactive bacteria or something. And suddenly that would be the thing all over the earth. And then maybe some other life form would spring up out of that. That's about as complicated as I make stuff. Like, I look at it in a very literal way. And so even when I'm talking about something like nihilism, I think I can basically let it go and think, okay, well, maybe this doesn't mean anything, but does it mean something to me right now? Does it mean something to me and the people I love right now? And can I still make the most of, even if none of this means anything in the big grand scheme of things, and we are all just specks of dust that are, forming together and then we just disappear and that life is actually meaningless. Even if that's the case, can I still find meaning in these moments? And can I still find love? Because I feel love, so that must mean something. Anyways, I love thinking about stuff like this, so thank you for asking that question. Weirdly enough, it's actually a beautiful question when you start thinking about it. Hopefully I didn't sound crazy when I was answering it. Okay, let's see who else called. Oh, look, you guys, look who it is. It's my wonderful partner called. All right, let's see what Corey has to say.
Hey, sweetie, it's your Corey. I was very pleasantly surprised today in an encounter with somebody that went a lot better than I was expecting it to, and it really cheered me up and made me feel great. So I guess I was wondering, when's the last time you were really pleasantly surprised by something or somebody? When's the last time you can think of where an experience really ran counter to your preconceptions? Okay, that's it. I love you, and I'll see you real soon. Gonna go cuddle with the dogs and you and all that good stuff. Okay, bye.
Aw. Well, for those of you who don't know, that was my wonderful partner, Corey, and he usually calls up because I make him. I'm like, honey, I need more voicemails. And so then he'll go in the other room and he'll leave me a voice message. So apparently he left me that voice message. Thank you very much for leaving that message. You know I love you back. When have I been pleasantly surprised recently? You know, I was pleasantly surprised when I gave that lecture at NanaCon at this convention that I was just at, because I was expecting it to be all one type of person. Like about 100 people showed up for my lecture, which first of all, I was amazed that that was the case. But then I was really surprised at how interactive the audience was. I don't know. I actually approached that with a lot of self-doubt. Like I was like, they're going to think this is stupid. Or I was worried that they might take the lecture as me just saying, oh, can't we all get along? Because that was kind of the gist of my lecture. I'm simplifying it, but that how can we coexist with people who don't share our political views, or maybe they go to a church that, discriminates against people, but in their eyes, they think it's, they don't actually discriminate. But when you look in the church doctrine, they do, or, they vote for people who, oh, well, we've always voted Republican. And so they kind of like gloss over a lot of the homophobic or transphobic or racist things. And how can we still, give those people love and be loving people in their lives? And sometimes we have to let them go with love, and they're too toxic for us to coexist with. Anyways, that was what my topic was about. And being gay, liberal, atheist, living in the Bible Belt, living around a lot of people who I do love, but who do not share my views, I just have a lot of experience being around people who don't see life the way I do, and still having relationships with them. So that's kind of what I was sharing about. Anyways, what I was pleasantly surprised about was just how enthusiastic people were about the topic. And we split up into groups. So there was a bunch of groups. There was probably, I don't know, like 12 or 15 groups of people. And they were all talking amongst themselves. And they were talking about who in their life they were really having a lot of problems seeing eye to eye with. What do you think that person who has these views that you find difficult, what fear is behind that person's views? Because a lot of times it's fear that causes people to be, I don't know, racist or sexist or homophobic or whatever. And then there was like kind of two parts to it. Like, what could we do moving forward to either still be a positive voice in that person's life, and also, what are our boundaries? Like, what are the things we will absolutely not tolerate? What are the lines that people could cross where we have to say, okay, this is a relationship that I can't afford to have in my life? And so I was really blown away by how enthusiastic the participants were, and they came back with a lot of amazing things. One of the things that really stuck out with me was this woman at the very end. She was one of the last people to share from her group, and she said, we decided as a group that we can't stop being angry. We have to be angry because so much is on the line right now. We have to still have this rage. Because right now, the Trump administration and all of those people, they're really trying to destroy so much in our democracy and take away people's rights. And a lot of these like crazy Christian nationalist politicians, they're proposing legislation that would be really damaging to LGBTQIA people, to, transgender people, to immigrants coming over, and, like people getting shot by ICE. I mean, I could go on and list a ton of stuff. But anyways, she said, we need to continue being angry about this stuff because we deserve to be angry, but we need to stop being angry at the wrong people, like our aunts or our uncles or our parents who are getting all this bad information from places like InfoWars and Fox News and all these QAnon conspiracy theory YouTube channels and like all this stuff that is basically feeding them garbage. We need to get angry at the people higher up, the billionaires who need America to be divided. So they're pumping a lot of just really bad information into people's heads and getting people to believe all sorts of things about their neighbors. Those are the people we need to be angry at. And so, our neighbor who happens to be getting really shitty information, if anything, we need to stay in their life and be loving to them because they are getting shitty information from people much higher up. I was pleasantly surprised to see that people's thinking was very focused about this. That just made me feel really happy to see people being really receptive to this concept of focusing our anger in the right direction and focusing our love in the right direction whenever possible as well. And sometimes the right direction might not seem like the right direction because we're focusing at people who we may not like all the views they have, but we're still trying to. And again, I'm not saying that we can always be sometimes we have to let people go. Anyways, I've already said that a zillion times in this episode. I'm going to go on to the next call. You guys, I'm almost winding down too. Let's see who else called.
Hey, Daniel. All right, so here's my all the time boring question about atheists. It seems to me that, look, what I want to find is a completely happy, free, contented atheist. Actually, I think that's probably you. I mean, you're full of love and compassion in the world, and you don't seem to be attached to anything really except being loving and compassionate. But it just seems to me that there are a lot of atheists who are atheists because they're pissed off at religion. And so there's God, maybe, there's religion, definitely, and there's legitimate reasons to be pissed off at religion, pretty much any of them and all of them. But I don't know. Is there some middle ground? Or is it possible? I mean, there have to be atheists who are just like, yep, not doing God, but they're also not pissed off at religions and they're not pissed off at the idea of God. They're just like, yeah, I'm good. I'm just living with the mystery in my own way without any solutions that have been provided by others.
Oh, I think that was it. I know who that was. I recognize that voice. That was my wonderful friend, Johnny, who I absolutely love. He is such a beautiful human being. Johnny, it just makes me so happy to hear your voice. And it would have been fun to have you at this convention I just went to because there was a lot of the people you're describing, like people who, there was definitely some pissed off atheists. Like, you're going to find pissed off people everywhere. I don't care if you go to like a religious place or wherever, like a mini golf course, there's going to be pissed off people wherever we go. So certainly, there was probably some pissed off atheists at this atheist convention. Although to be honest with you, I didn't really talk to any. All the atheists I talked to and humanists and free thinkers and even progressive Christians who were there, everybody kind of had the same philosophy, which is this. It's a really cool philosophy. I don't care what you believe. I heard people say this over and over and over again. I don't care what you believe. I just care what your values are. And man, that was echoing through this whole thing, because what we believe, as far as whether we believe in something else out there or we just believe this is it, that's different from what our values are. Like values of compassion and kindness and empathy and grace and dignity and service and uh, being humble, and also cheering each other on and being supportive. And if I have an extra dollar, maybe I'll give it to you because I don't need that dollar. I'll be okay if I don't have that dollar or $10 or whatever it is, and I do believe that there is examples of human beings being their best all the time. We like to talk about human beings being their worst. I mean, I was just on TikTok earlier. Was it TikTok, or it might have been Instagram, or it might have been Threads? I can't remember. It was one of those social media channels. But all these reels kept coming up of like people just being awful, like, racist Karen accost this person, or these two guys get in a fight or whatever. And it's like all these clickbait reels. And we've reached the point now where you don't even know if they're real. They may be AI reels. So there's that. But I don't need to see people being mean to each other. I've seen a lot of it, and I've certainly been guilty of it myself. I know I'm going kind of all over the place with this, but I like what you're saying a lot. Like, I believe that for me, yeah, I'm an atheist, but at the end of the day, I tell people I'm an atheist just so they know, like, to get it out in the open so we can move past it, because it's really such a small part of who I am. A bigger part of me is just a human being. And, so if I'm around other human beings, like, how am I treating them? And do I want them to have nice things? Do I want them to have health care? Do I want them to be able to have safe roads to drive on, clean drinking water? Do I want their kids to be able to go to school and actually learn about real history, not like some whitewashed history, so that we don't have to repeat really horrible moments in time later on because kids didn't learn about stuff like slavery and, the Trail of Tears and like all these really horrible things that happened, so we don't have to go through those things again. I mean, I really hate suffering. I think that's one of the things, if you know me and you spend some time with me, you will know very quickly that the thing I hate more than anything is suffering. I can't stand seeing something suffer. I mean, even like if there's like a fly trapped in a window, I have to try to set it free. Like, I got to open the window, and because it's going to, die between the two glasses. And I don't like thinking about something stuck somewhere and suffering. Like, and it's the same with people. I don't like thinking about people suffering. I think that's why, as somebody who's been sober now for 7.5 years, I just went to a friend's memorial service this weekend. A beautiful man. He touched a lot of people's lives, but, for whatever reason, he needed to go back out and, he had to drink one last time. He had to, he wanted to drink and, and it was, or use, I don't know what his drug of choice was, but, and now he's not here anymore, and that's irreplaceable, so I don't know. I still have to subscribe to I don't do this perfectly, but can I subscribe to the belief that everybody has beautiful things about them? Man, I struggle with that because I don't feel that way when I look at friggin' Donald Trump. I mean, all I see is somebody that I fucking can't stand, so I don't know. Maybe I still need to evolve a little. Did that answer your question? I don't think it did. But maybe it kind of circled around the answer. And if that's all I did, hopefully that's still good enough. And again, I just liked hearing your voice because it makes me happy to hear from my friend Johnny. Let's see, who else? I'm going to play one more and then we're going to call it an evening. Remember, danielcartier.com, click on podcast, leave me a voice message, and then I can play your voice message on this beautiful show. This beautiful, important, vibrant show. Who is this? It says Samantha. Let's see what Samantha has to say.
Hey Daniel, this is Samantha from Nashville, Tennessee. It was really great meeting you at NanoCon this year. You just have a whole ass energy about you that I really like. And shit. Keep rocking and rolling, you know what I mean? Know what I mean? Hopefully we'll get to cross paths again someday, but until then, just you know it. I'm not baked, you are. Anyway, you take care of yourself, and I'll be sure to do the same. Take care.
Samantha? Gosh, I loved hearing that voice message. Thank you so much. And yeah, I do remember meeting you. That was a lot of fun at NanoCon. I kind of wanted to do it again right away. And it did make me jealous of, man, the friggin' people at church, they get to go to these big churches and then they get to do it again the next week. And, as an atheist, we kind of don't have that privilege. Gotta wait until the next year. But here's the deal. It just means that we need to figure out ways as a community to still get together when we don't have a big convention. I know that there's like meetups happening in Nashville. I'm thinking of starting a little group here where I'm from in Dixon. I've been really kind of jonesing to be around some other people who share my beliefs, and I don't know, like having like a monthly coffee meetup or something. And so if I do that, I will let you guys know, and maybe you guys can come meet me at a coffee shop in Dixon, Tennessee, and we can talk about, we can talk about concepts. Wouldn't that be nice? Talk about concepts. But yes, it was lovely meeting you. I'm not saying that you were stoned when you left that message, but if you were, girl, I hope that you're smoking one for me. I can't smoke anymore. I'm in recovery, so I'm a clean teen. I can't do anything like that. I am 100% chemical free for the last 7.5 years, but I love the fact that other people can still enjoy that. Please keep enjoying it. I am not a prude when it comes to that. I am not the pot police or the booze police or whatever. I'm actually, weirdly enough, okay, I'm getting way off tangent. I'm kind of a libertarian when it comes to drugs. I kind of think they should all be legalized, like all of them, so we could tax them all and we could put all that money into communities and education and community building, because I think what causes addiction a lot of times is hopelessness. And I'm not saying that you're addicted. I'm sorry. Like, I didn't mean to get off on this tangent, but you mentioned being stoned. Yeah, I'm a big believer in legalizing things so that we can tax them, so we can use that revenue to actually fight hopelessness. And yeah, maybe some people are just going to use pot recreationally or do acid or whatever. I don't know. It's really none of my business what people do with their bodies. But I think it would be great if, instead of like these drug cartels getting money, like it would actually be going into some system that would be paying for, I don't know, community centers or after school programs or education or public schools or, funding for the arts or vocational training or public education, like college, giving people, tuition to college. Yeah. Providing hope for people. If you want to fight, because addiction, like true addiction, like how I was addicted to drugs and alcohol, that's desperation. Like they desperate people do desperate things. And one of the ways that you combat desperation is by giving people hope. So man, when I look at all the money that we spend on things that like are just so hopeless, like, just like this big war industrial complex, and we could be putting all that money into giving people hope. And if people had hope, I think that we would live in a much different world. And maybe that's simplistic. Maybe that makes me like completely idealistic and naive, but I wouldn't want to be anything other than who I am. So that is what I believe. If you think that's ridiculous, feel free to let me know in the comments or call up again, danielcartier.com/podcast, or just click on podcast in the menu, Daniel Cartier, CARTIER.com, podcast. When you get to the podcast page, leave me a voicemail. And then you can say, you know what, I heard you talk about legalizing drugs and I think you're an idiot. And I would love to hear from you. Tell me why you think I'm an idiot, because then I can, I can respond to it. And I might agree with you. I might be like, you know what, you're totally right. I wasn't thinking that through. I will be the first person to admit when I'm wrong about something. I'm just telling you what I think right now at this moment in time. But could it change? Absolutely. Change my mind if you really feel you need to, or try to. You might not succeed, but you might. You never know. And with that, I'm going to leave you all with a bunch of love. There was a whole other segment I was going to do on assholes of the week, and I was going to list off a bunch of assholes. But you guys, this has been long enough. I'll do it next week. I am bidding you adieu, and I hope that you are reaching for the stars and being the beautiful people that you are. And I will see you again next week. All right. Bye. There is no God and we're all gonna die. There is no God and we're all gonna die. There is no God and we're all gonna die. There is no God, there's just you and I.